What if I told you that some of the toughest names in hip-hop aren't just going head-to-head with the industry, public pressure, or the weight of fame, but are quietly fighting life-altering health battles behind the scenes, battles most fans never even hear about? We're used to seeing headlines about legal troubles, social media drama, or industry beef. That's the narrative that spreads fast. But there's another side to the story that doesn't always trend: artists pushing through serious medical conditions while still recording, performing, touring, and somehow staying at the top of their game. This isn't exaggeration. This is real life. Some of the biggest figures in rap have faced health struggles that could have completely changed the trajectory of their careers. Take Boosie Badass, a Baton Rouge legend and one of the most respected voices in Southern hip-hop. He was diagnosed with kidney cancer, a fight that tested his strength mentally, physically, and emotionally in ways the public only saw glimpses of. Or consider NBA Youngboy, one of the most streamed and talked about artists of his generation, who openly spoke about his own health condition through his music, choosing transparency over silence and showing a different form of toughness that doesn't always get recognized. These aren't internet rumors or exaggerated blog stories. These are documented, real-life challenges that have deeply impacted their journeys. We're talking about serious conditions like diabetes, epilepsy, cancer, and other chronic illnesses, battles that money, fame, platinum records, and millions of followers simply cannot erase. Behind the chains, the sold-out shows, and the chart-topping albums are human beings dealing with pain, uncertainty, hospital visits, and personal fears. Behind the music and the spotlight are powerful stories of resilience, survival, and perseverance that deserve just as much attention as any headline-grabbing controversy. What if I told you that the real battles in hip-hop aren't always the ones trending online, but the ones unfolding quietly behind closed doors, the kind where fame, money, and influence can't tip the scale? We're constantly fed stories about controversy, court dates, industry beef, and social media drama. That's what dominates timelines and headlines. But rarely do we hear about the artists who are dealing with serious health conditions while still trying to live their lives, raise families, record music, perform for fans, and stay mentally strong. No exaggeration, this side of the story is real, and it often goes unnoticed. Some of the biggest names in the culture have faced medical challenges that could have completely reshaped their futures. Take Boosie Badass, a legendary voice out of Baton Rouge, who was diagnosed with kidney cancer, a life-threatening battle far more serious than any rap beef or viral moment. Or look at NBA Youngboy, one of the most streamed and influential artists of this generation, who chose to open up in his music about a personal health condition, showing a level of vulnerability and courage that isn't always celebrated in hip-hop. That kind of honesty takes strength. These aren't rumors, blog gossip, or internet speculation. They are documented realities that have had a major impact on their lives and careers. We're talking about conditions like diabetes, epilepsy, cancer, and other chronic illnesses, real-world struggles that wealth, chart success, and global recognition simply cannot shield anyone from. Behind the platinum records, the sold-out arenas, the streaming numbers, and the spotlight, there are real human beings facing fear, pain, and uncertainty. And those stories of resilience, endurance, and survival deserve just as much recognition as anything else happening in the culture. What if I told you that the real battles in hip-hop aren't always the ones trending online, but the ones unfolding quietly behind closed doors, the kind where fame, money, and influence can't tip the scale? We're constantly fed stories about controversy, court dates, industry beef, and social media drama. That's what dominates timelines and headlines. But rarely do we hear about the artists who are dealing with serious health conditions while still trying to live their lives, raise families, record music, perform for fans, and stay mentally strong. No exaggeration, this side of the story is real, and it often goes unnoticed. Some of the biggest names in the culture have faced medical challenges that could have completely reshaped their futures. Take Boosie Badass, a legendary voice out of Baton Rouge, who was diagnosed with kidney cancer, a life-threatening battle far more serious than any rap beef or viral moment. Or look at NBA Youngboy, one of the most streamed and influential artists of this generation, who chose to open up in his music about a personal health condition, showing a level of vulnerability and courage that isn't always celebrated in hip-hop. That kind of honesty takes strength. These aren't rumors, blog gossip or internet speculation, they are documented realities that have had a major impact on their lives and careers. We're talking about conditions like diabetes, epilepsy, cancer, and other chronic illnesses, real-world struggles that wealth, chart success, and global recognition simply cannot shield anyone from. Behind the platinum records, the sold-out arenas, the streaming numbers, and the spotlight, there are real human beings facing fear, pain, and uncertainty. And those stories of resilience, endurance, and survival deserve just as much recognition as anything else happening. At first, people didn't know how to interpret it. Was he being literal, or was it simply another metaphor woven into the music? The uncertainty didn't last long, because his then-girlfriend, Jania Jackson, took to Instagram and spoke on it directly. She confirmed that she was dealing with the same condition and explained that YB addressing it publicly proved he truly didn't care about outside judgment. Soon after, another snippet surfaced, a song titled "Truth About Herpes," where he went deeper into the situation. That sparked a back and forth online, with Jania responding and clarifying her perspective, saying she never meant to hurt anyone and was only speaking from an emotional place. Things became messy, private conversations turned public, but through everything, NBA YoungBoy never stepped back or tried to deny it. Instead, he fully stood on it. When fans questioned why he would be so open about something so personal, he made it clear he didn't want anyone holding it over his head. He removed the power before anyone else had the chance. Even when people attempted to clown him about it during Instagram live sessions, he didn't respond with anger. He laughed it off, showing a level of self-assurance that's rare to witness. The truth is, this condition is much more common than most people think. Health experts estimate that hundreds of millions of individuals around the world live with it, and although there isn't a complete cure, many people manage it with proper treatment and continue living normal lives. What made YB's situation different wasn't only the condition itself, it was how the culture reacted. Hip-hop has always revolved around image, reputation, and perception. So for one of the biggest artists of this generation to speak openly about something that personal and still hold his place at the top says a lot. It shifted the narrative in a way few expected. And real quick, if you're tuned into stories like this, stay locked in, because what's coming next goes even deeper. We're about to talk about Eazy-E, Lil Wayne, and one of the most impactful health stories in hip-hop history. This next chapter didn't just influence music, it sent shockwaves far beyond it. Because when you mention Eazy-E, you're talking about someone who helped build the foundation of the culture. Born Eric Lynn Wright, he was a trailblazer, a co-founder of NWA, and the powerhouse behind Ruthless Records. He played a key role in taking Compton's voice to the world and helped launch the careers of icons like Dr. Dre and others. What unfolded next in his story wasn't just surprising, it was something that transformed how people viewed health, awareness, and the reality. Dr. Dre and Ice Cube. When NWA released Straight Outta Compton in 1988, their impact was so powerful that even the FBI sent warning letters to their record label. That's how strong their influence had become. Eazy-E was still in his early 20s, yet he was already redefining the sound and direction of American music. But everything shifted in 1995. On February 24th, he checked into Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, believing he was dealing with something minor, possibly bronchitis, after suffering from a persistent and severe cough. What doctors found instead was far more serious. He had HIV, and it had already progressed to AIDS. On March 16, 1995, Eazy-E issued a public statement revealing his diagnosis. Just 10 days later, on March 26, he passed away at only 30 years old. That timeline stunned the world, going from assuming it was a routine illness to losing his life within a matter of weeks. The rapid decline in his condition left not only fans but even medical experts caught off guard. There was barely any time to understand what was happening, barely any time to react. Everything unfolded with overwhelming speed. The effect on hip-hop was instant and deeply emotional. During that era, AIDS carried an intense stigma, particularly in communities where toughness and image meant everything. When the announcement became public, many struggled to process it. Speculation spread quickly, and some people even formed alternative theories because accepting the truth felt too heavy. Regardless of the rumors, one fact remains undeniable: Eazy-E's story raised awareness on a massive level. Following his public disclosure, health organizations reported a noticeable increase in awareness and preventative action among young people. His legacy didn't only leave a permanent mark on music, it also ignited conversations that extended far beyond the cult. During that third seizure, Lil Wayne's heart rate reportedly dropped to just 30%. He said it plainly, "Basically, I could have died." But the situation goes even deeper. Wayne later shared that he had been experiencing seizures since he was a child, although at the time he didn't understand what was happening. He recalled having fainting spells when he was young, and after discussing it with his mother, they came to realize that his epilepsy had likely existed for years without ever being properly diagnosed. He had been carrying this condition long before the public ever became aware of it. The seriousness of his epilepsy became impossible to ignore in 2016, when he suffered multiple seizures while flying on a private jet from Milwaukee to California, forcing the pilot to make an emergency landing. Then in 2017, he was discovered unconscious in a Chicago hotel room and rushed to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, where he experienced another seizure after being admitted. Doctors refused to release him, warning that flying again could be extremely dangerous. What stands out about Wayne's response is that he neither conceals it nor exaggerates it. When questioned about how serious it was, he responded, "I shot myself when I was 12. I grew up in Hollygrove. I've seen way worse." To Wayne, epilepsy is something he manages, a challenge to face, not an obstacle that defines him. Epilepsy impacts roughly 1 to 2% of the global population, and in more severe cases like his, seizures can slow the heart to life-threatening levels. There is no permanent cure. Control depends heavily on consistent medication and lifestyle adjustments, particularly lowering stress and getting proper rest, both of which are extremely difficult for someone living the non-stop life of one of the most famous rappers in the world. But when it comes to DMX, the story shifts in a tragic direction unlike any other on this list. This wasn't simply a medical condition attacking from the outside. HIV testing among young people increased dramatically, and all of a sudden, artists who had never addressed the subject before were stepping up, urging others to get tested and stay informed. One single moment shifted the mindset of an entire generation, forcing people to confront something they had avoided for years. That kind of influence reaches far beyond music. That's a real legacy. Eazy didn't even get the opportunity to battle his illness for long, yet his story still created awareness that continues to impact lives today. But the next artist on this list represents a different kind of story, someone who has lived with his condition his entire life, and most people had no clue it was happening. Now turning to Lil Wayne, because his journey hits in a completely different way. This wasn't something he decided to announce. The world found out because his body forced the reality into public view. Dwayne Michael Carter Jr., known globally as Lil Wayne, is widely regarded as one of the greatest lyricists to ever step into a booth. Albums like The Carter 3 are considered classics, and his mixtape run throughout the mid-2000s stands as one of the most dominant eras in hip-hop history. Growing up in Hollygrove, New Orleans, his path was never smooth, and every level of success he reached came through pressure, hunger, and relentless persistence. Then in March 2013, everything took a frightening turn. Wayne was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles and remained in the ICU for 6 consecutive days after suffering multiple seizures back-to-back. At one of the most critical points, his heart rate dropped to an extremely dangerous level, and those around him were warned that the outcome could have been very different. Fans across the world were left anxious, waiting for updates, until messages began to surface, including one from his daughter, Reginae Carter, who assured everyone that he was in stable condition. When Wayne eventually addressed the situation publicly, he was completely transparent. In an interview with Power 106, he stated it clearly. He has epilepsy and is susceptible to seizures. He explained that it wasn't the first incident, it had happened many times before, just away from cameras and headlines. According to him, what made that particular episode so severe was a mix of overwhelming stress, lack of sleep, and constantly pushing